What is going on to all my Doom Patrol fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. I'm so excited because I love me some Doom Patrol, and I'm so happy to be back with Season 3 of HBO Max's Doom Patrol, and we're breaking it all down. This is a full spoiler review of the first 3 episodes, so if you haven't seen them, go check them out and come back and join the fun. But hey, before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this spoiler review, make sure to like and share the review. It helps out the channel a lot, but also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let's talk about these first 3 episodes. Again, we're talking full spoilers in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, so let me know, how did you feel about the 3 episodes? Which was your favorite out of the 3? How do you feel about the premiere feeling like a finale, which it should have been of last year, and how it plays into season 3? What do you think about the introduction of all the new characters like the Brotherhood of Evil, the Doom Patrol dying and coming back, and what it can mean for the future? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So like I said, I love this show. I reviewed season 1, the entirety of season 2, and here we are talking season 3, and it was very unfortunate that we didn't get the proper finale that we supposed to got last year, but hey, here we are, new season, new stories, new crazy wacky ass characters, and I couldn't be happier to be back. So this will be a full spoiler episode 1, 2, and 3 breakdown. So let's get into it. Recapping episode 1, which I'm not gonna lie, out of the 3, it was my least favorite. And knowing that this was supposed to be the finale of season 1, or season 2, I'm sorry, I still think it was not the best episode, and we'll get into my reasons why, but it felt so weird to kind of jump right back into the events that should have been in season 2, and just I wasn't emotionally connected to the story because, again, this was supposed to be the finale of season 2 with even the cliffhanger ending as well as the post-credit scenes. But hey, let's break it down and talk about it together as we open up with the fight between Dorothy and the Candlemaker as they're doing the Battle of the Minds. And we see that, of course, the Candlemaker they're destined to fight. But Dorothy says, you know what? Let's maybe change things and change the destiny of us becoming enemies and fighting for the rest of eternity. So we see, going back into the plane, because they're in their Battle of the Minds, we're going back to the carnival where the team wakes up. They see the death in the body of Niles, and of course, at this point in time, Dorothy comes back with the Candlemaker. I'm thinking that this kind of exile situation they had at hand was going to probably play more into season 3, but no, they seem to figure things out pretty quickly as they now are on the same page, and now Dorothy has control, and she's able to have the Candlemaker go back into his cage and kind of keep his temper at bay, which is good because she has control now. But of course, emotion for Dorothy because she sees her dad's dead body, which this is where we go from 1 week later, and we catch up with our crew where we're just seeing the Doom Patrol kind of come to amends with Niles' death. And to be honest, no one really seemed to be that upset. Of course, there are reasons why, because of the conditions that Niles have put them in, the lies and the deception and all the stuff that he's done. But no one's really as sad as they should be, except for Dorothy, obviously, because that was her dad. And we see that she has his body preserved with peas, frozen good peas. And again, it's just seeing her just kind of deal with that, because we know Dorothy has lost a lot. She's lost her childhood. She's lost her mom. She's lost her dad. So there's a lot going on with her. But unfortunately, no one else in the Doom Patrol is kind of not being there emotionally for poor Dorothy. So moving on with Niles' death, we see that Rita is given a letter by Niles with this secret key that we'll talk about at the end here. But more importantly, he's given her the keys to the Doom Patrol. She's the pseudo leader of the group, which we know Rita mentally right now, she's not mentally prepared to be the leader of this group. But we head and catch up with Jane. We go to the underground, in which we see that Kay is in a cage, and then we learn the true identity of who this fake Miranda was, and it turns out to be that it's like an infection that's been connected to Kay. And we know Kay's story. She's been through it all with her dad and all the trauma that she went through. So we kind of finally get the main reveal of who that persona is. It's not a persona at all. It's actually an affection. So while all this is going on, we see that Cliff is still dealing with his performance issues with his mind and not really breaking out of that mindset. And he gets a visit by the ghost of Niles. And this is where Niles tells him, I can't move on to the afterlife because I'm not at peace. You know, I've done so many bad things, and I know you hate me, Cliff, but I'm going to need your help. And Cliff is like, F that, I am not helping you with all the bad stuff you've done to me. And this is where Niles says, listen, I understand, Cliff, to try to make things better, I sent the proof to your daughter. Can you help me get out of this situation? Again, completely understand where Cliff is coming from, because Niles definitely destroyed his life. But we see the continuation of our characters kind of dealing with their drama, as we see Rita is still dealing with things with the play, Cyborg dealing with his criminal girlfriend, Ronnie, and of course Larry is still dealing with the negative spirit inside of him. And again, they're just dealing with their demons. But of course, the big thing at hand is Niles is dead. What do these characters do now? So we see this is where Jane is trying to get out of the underground, and this is where Jane and the other personalities are trying to fight against the infection, because we see Kay is giving her a plane to try to get back to taking the main persona as Kay, and they're fighting the infection, which as they're fighting the infection, we see that the infection is trying to kill them all, but eventually they do stop her, and this is where Jane is inevitably able to get back into her body and be the main persona. We see Rita and Larry saying their goodbyes, because Larry he's been going through it for the last 3 seasons, and this is supposed to be the season 2 finale, but he's gonna go on this journey with the spirit to figure out who he is and have this journey of self-discovery, which doesn't last that long. But we see Cliff is a granddad now. He meets his grandson, and we see Niles is able to have his body put at rest, as Dorothy's gonna take him away to where her mother's buried with the help of Danny. And then we fast forward to 1 more week later, and this is where the secret key is getting off, and Rita tries to answer the call, but she really doesn't have a sense of urgency, and it seems to be a very intimate, or not intimate, but a very important and intimate call that she misses. And she's like, well, I guess if it was important, they would call back. But we end with the lead of the play with the standing ovation. She walks outside, and we get this mysterious character who's revealed to be Madame Rogue, who I am so excited to learn more about this wacky character and her connections to the Brotherhood of Evil. But she ends up dying, the lead character of the play, and this is where she is saying that she is on the look for Niles and finding the Doom Patrol, as we wrap up one of the kind of end credit scenes, and we get our second end post-credit scene with Niles having his head, and his spirit is able to leave the house now because his head's being chopped off by Kempley, and he takes his head. So we're going to get more Niles. When you're not dead when you're part of the Doom Patrol. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But just overall thoughts, episode 1, again, it wasn't a great episode for if it would have been the finale, in my personal opinion. And of course, it wasn't going to fit as a premiere episode, because it's still so connected to season 2, the finales, the cliffhangers, the post-credit scene. So it was very awkward it was a very awkward position to be in. Obviously, I know why they had to push it back, because of obviously the pandemic, but it was a very weird way to open up season 3, because it really wasn't like, this is season 3. It was more like, this is the conclusion of season 2. And it wasn't until episode 2, which let's go ahead and dive into it, that's where I felt like, okay, now we're opening the gates for season 3, and this was my favorite episode out of the 3, as we are in 1949, and we meet the Brotherhood of Evil, which consists of the members of, we have Brain, Monsieur Mala, Gargrax, in general, Immortus, and in the comics, I know that Madame Rogue is a part of this group, so it'll be interesting to see if they're going to switch up the origins, or if she is secretly working for them. But a really wacky, I'm not going to lie, I thought that was Gorilla Grodd for a quick second, so I'm not all that familiar with the Brotherhood of Evil, but they're pretty wacky as we come to spec with the Doom Patrol. But we see that Gargrax is given the task of taking down the Doom Patrol, but more particularly taking down Rita. And this is where we kind of see, and this was his mission given by the Brain of the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil. But we see that he's given this mission, and nothing's working for him. We see that it's 1964, it's 1971, it's 1991. He's just sitting there waiting for the mission to come, and it really never comes. Meanwhile, we go back to present day, where Rita doesn't know what the hell is coming, and she's still kind of in her head. She doesn't know what to do with Niles' death. She wasn't be able to be a part of the play, but she doesn't know that the Brotherhood of Evil is seeking her and looking for her. But cut to, we don't get much of Larry in the second episode regarding really the understanding of what's going on, as we see that the negative spirit takes him to his homeland and leaves him. I don't know I guess that was like the whole point of him going back home, but I don't know if we're going to see the negative spirit make his way back into Larry's body, because Larry is missing the negative spirit, as he would have never known, because we obviously know in the first 2 seasons he wanted to get rid of the spirit, but now they seem to have it on the same page, but now they couldn't be further apart. So it'll be interesting to see how that storyline is going to play out this season. But meanwhile, we see that Cliff is trying to make up for lost time, trying to be the best granddad that he possibly can be, but he's just kind of doing way too much, and he still having issues with his brain. He can't connect to his family because he still has his eternal demons that he's dealing with. So speaking of demons, we see that Ronnie is, unfortunately, it's not going to work out with Vic. And we knew this from last year, but he's having consequences for letting Ronnie go as Star Labs is shutting him down. And he now has the blue eye, which was very funny in the way they were picking at Vic this entire episode. But what I really enjoyed about this is we're seeing that Rita suggests that they go on a vacation because they need a vacation. They've been going through a lot. They lost Niles. They've been going through a lot since the Candlemaker of season 2. And it's funny because they, out of all the places in the world they can pick, they end up picking the same spot where one of the members of the Brotherhood of Evil is staying, which again is classic Doom Patrol type of thing. And this is, to me, when they're setting up the vacation, this is when I feel like, okay, now we're back into the rhythm. Now we're back into Doom Patrol. This feels like the Doom Patrol I love because, again, I know the issues with the first episode regarding that it was supposed to be a finale, but this felt more like a premiere episode, and this felt like the Doom Patrol that I love, going on these wacky trips, as we'll talk about here in a second. But, of course, the vacation spot is where the same person from the evil of the Brotherhood of Evil is staying, Ardrax, and this is where him and Cliff are kind of bonding over their past time, as well as they bring up Niles. So they have a lot in common, but little does he know who he works for, which brings us to the team meeting him, and the only one that's like, hey, this guy seems like a supervillain is Vic, but the rest of the team's like, listen, Vic, you need to cool down, you need to relax, this is our vacation. But of course, Vic was right the whole time, as again, this is the Doom Patrol I love, as they're picking fun of Vic and his gay tie, and they talk about just the continuation, just like, let us relax, we're not a team, we're not meant to fight evil, as this is, I love that the show continues the narrative. They haven't faced their demons yet. They haven't overcome their demons. So I wouldn't want them to be a superhero team without them confronting their past demons. So I love that the show is continuing that storyline that we got from the very beginning of this show. And again, I love the character breakdowns. I love them kind of, again, confronting their past, overcoming their past and coming together. But right now, they're still dealing with their issues. So they can't come together as a team quite yet, as they essentially part ways in this episode. But it is our Samuel's character that is happy to learn that Rita is there, but Gar is just like, I don't care, let's leave her be, she's not going to do anyone any harm, and the mission gave up on us, and it's time to move on. But Samuels, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to continue this mission that was given to him by the brain. We wrap up this, which again was my favorite episode, we wrap with the crew dancing to Forever Young, and this is where Gar unfortunately is killed by Samuel because they get the call from the brain, and this is where Madame Rowe comes to the mix. They push Rita, who's trying to escape, because obviously Samuels is trying to kill Rita, and ultimately the mission is complete. They kill the Doom Patrol, but more importantly, they kill Rita. What a great way to end off the episode. Again, that would, to me, would have been such a great premiere, but nonetheless, my favorite out of the 3 was this episode, which brings us into episode 3, which is the team is dead. They are dead, ladies and gentlemen, and they're crossing the river, and this is where the mysterious person in the cloak and Rita pretends to be dead. It's just like, I love this show. I love the comedy beats in this show that they give us here. But meanwhile, he's alone. He's back at the mansion while his negative spirit is off in space, and we see that the team is kind of falling into the afterlife. This is where Cliff sees his dad, Vic sees his mom. We see Jane and Jay, or Kay, I'm sorry, sees that their grandmother, so they're trying to come at peace with their loved ones that have passed. Meanwhile, we see Dorothy is back at the mansion. We see that Larry has a plan, because at this point the remaining body parts of the crew has been delivered to them. I would assume Samuels did that. And again, I can't wait to get more of the Brotherhood of Evil. But Dorothy points out, this is pretty weird, Larry, that you have them bandaged up and you have them at the dinner table doing the things that they would do, like he's having Jane give the middle finger to Cliff. But again, they need help, and this is where this is where Larry knows that they need help, and Dorothy has help from Danny, and which was a cool introduction. I wonder if we'll get a spinoff of these characters, but we get the introduction of the Dead Boy Detectives, which consist of Edwin, Charles, and Crystal, and this is, again, I love how the show pulls the obscurity of these characters of DC. Again, they don't rely on the Trinity, right? There's no mentions of Batmans, no Supermans, no Wonder Womans, but instead we get the Dead Detective Boys. So I love when the show introduces me to some very obscure, very unknown characters that I really end up loving by the end of this episode. But the detectives were a recommendation by Danny, as we know Danny has the hookup to all the superheroes, especially the unknown ones. But back to the afterlife, and this was a really cool moment for these characters because this was closure. much needed closure. But I think out of the closure, I think Vic really needed that conversation with his mom, and I thought that Jane having that moment with Kay and her grandmother was really emotional, really earned. Everything else, having the conversation with Cliff and his dad was cool as he's cutting up the unicorn horse or whatever, but those two characters and their closure was really emotionally earned in my personal opinion. But with the help of the dead boy detectives, they learn that the crew is in a tunnel of souls. Like, what? Okay, I love it. Let's go to the Tunnel of Souls, as they agree to take the risk of going to the Tunnel of Souls, even though the detective boys, they can risk their lives because death is looking for them. And I love this stuff here that we get the backstories of what happened to Charles, what happened to Edward, and how did Crystal get into the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a spinoff with those characters, because they reminds me a lot of like Constantine dealing with demons and supernatural stuff. I love the chemistry of that crew, and again, if they give us a spinoff somehow, some way, or we get the continuation of those stories somehow, some way in this season, I'm all for it because I love that cast. But as we see the crew is saying their goodbyes to their loved ones in the afterlife, they finally make it back to the Tunnel of Souls as the dead boys help them out, and Larry's there at this point, and I love the little jokes of them calling them judgy Harry Potters. They get into this fight with the Secretary of Death, and I don't know who the mysterious man is that saved Rita and the crew. He seems to know Rita, but then Rita seems to pretend like she didn't know him. I don't know if it's a past love, if it was someone she knew when she was acting, but of course I think we're going to follow that up eventually. But we end with them escaping as he's distracting the secretary lady that works for Death, and she throws up on them. And they're like, it's just throw up, we're going to be okay, as they make their way out. But they're now officially back into present day. They're alive now. And again, it makes you wonder, who was that guy? But more importantly, we get Madame Rogue making her way downstairs, and before she actually comes downstairs, Dorothy goes with the dead boys, and I think she's going to be on search for peace, but at the same time she's going to probably search for Niles, because we know how episode 1 ended. So that's something, again, I hope we get more of the dead boy detectives, because I thought they were really great. But again, wrapping up the episode, Madame Rowe makes her way downstairs, asks the crew want some tea, and again, I know in the comics she works for the Brotherhood of Evil, but is it a diversion in this story? Is she going to be anti-hero? Because she is a supervillain in the comics, so it'll be really interesting to see how she plays into the season. But nonetheless, this was a great episode. Again, taking away my thoughts on episode 1, which just felt so weird that I just couldn't emotionally get back into the finale. But episode 2 was my favorite. And again, getting all the craziness, meeting the Brotherhood, and then getting some afterlife zombie supernatural stuff was really fantastic. So I'm so great. I'm so happy to be back in this universe, be back with these characters I love, and I can't wait to see what season 3 has up its sleeve. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, pros, cons, thoughts, predictions. What other obscure characters would you like to see make an appearance? Do you want to see a spinoff or the continuation of the Dead Boys Detective? And we're going to get more of the Brotherhood of Evil and other different characters and obscure stuff in this season, and I'm so excited for it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Before you leave, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.